gang. I think this is one of our last sessions. Well done to Vicki and Mark on putting all this together. It's been a pleasure to be here with Automation's Dreaming and all the things that I know I've been learning. I hope you've learned a lot as well. My name is Sheila Bassfinder. I'm with Supermoms. And with me today, I have Jacob, and I'm going to say it hopefully right, Catalano. Did I say it?
Yes.
Yay, me. With us, and he is going to be talking about how to bring Pardot or Marketing Cloud account engagement abilities to flow with flow actions for Pardot. So here we go. The recording has started. I'm going to shut up and turn my presenter mode off and let you take it away.
Sounds great. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to then dive on into the system. So yes, as we mentioned, we are going to be talking about bringing Marketing Cloud account engagement abilities to flow with flow actions for Pardot. So just disclaimer, I'm going to call it Pardot. It's just easier that way. We can get through a lot, and we only have 25 minutes, and there's a lot of great content for us to go through today. So I'm really, really excited to be sharing this with you. As we mentioned, my name is Jacob Catalano. I am the product manager with Sercante Labs. Sercante Labs is a group within Sercante where we are creating custom apps, integrations, and solutions that help bulkify what Pardot can do natively and how it can talk to other MarTech solutions. So similar to what we're going to talk about today, my focus and my kind of passion is finding ways that we can do custom integrations, find new ways to use what we have to get the job done. Every marketer's job and use case of using Pardot and Salesforce are going to be different inevitably. And so finding those ways to make sure everything comes together is really, really important. So with that being said, when we're looking at the different MarTech solutions within the world of MarTech, there's a little under 10,000 solutions available that go from advertising, content, social media, commerce, sales, data, process management, you name it, there's a MarTech solution for it. And on average, companies have about 12 MarTech solutions, and inevitably there are about 12 MarTech solutions that are impacting efficiency somehow. We're trying to find ways to make sure the data can map together properly without causing issues. And we see it all the time with Pardot integrating with another solution, or even sometimes the Pardot's native integration with Salesforce. There's something that's impacting efficiency. So what we want to make sure we can dive into is how do we prevent those impacting efficiencies? So there's a few ways you can have integrations in the system. There's custom coded solutions, which everyone loves, but some people just don't inevitably have the time or resources to dive into all of those. We have SI partners like Sercante, where we come in, we partner for a custom coded solution to find your needs. And then there's ISV partners where you are working with a company who has created a really cool app in the App Exchange, and that fits your needs. We actually also are going to talk through a solution. Flow Actions for Pardot is an app in the App Exchange that's available to anyone. So how can the API help me? Well, my use case right now is that I am a marketer and I spend most of my time in Pardot, but I have to keep going back and forth between Pardot and Salesforce to make sure I can actually get all of my integrations organized. As well as I mentioned before on this slide that there are 10,000 different MarTech solutions. I found a solution that said, hey, I'm going to integrate between my event platform and Pardot. And I'm really excited, so I downloaded it from the App Exchange. But here's the catch. It wasn't actually an integration from Pardot to the event platform. It was Salesforce to the event platform, and you now have to rely on that Salesforce to Pardot integration to then meet your needs and use custom fields and use the field syncing that's part of the native integration. We're going to find that a lot of systems out there are going to fall into that bucket. They say they integrate with Pardot, but they don't really. They integrate with Salesforce, and then based on that connection, you can then integrate with Pardot. So we're going to be able to utilize and bulkify a lot of the Salesforce to Pardot current integration using API. The Pardot API, the new V5 coverage, which was just released recently, allows a little bit more for us in legacy and lightning coverage. The things we're going to talk about today and focus on are prospect management and segmentation, content management, and external activities. That doesn't mean to say we can't do engagement reporting or organization and account details. It's just we're not going to necessarily focus on that because we care about campaign reporting as marketers, and the organization and account user details, while important, are more nice to haves right now as opposed to the needed have to haves. So we're going to look at the development suite a little bit, just kind of high level touch at it, because again, we only have 20 some odd minutes to go through this, but we're going to highlight why the V5 integration or the V5 API is really powerful, because it's basically a way to integrate external solutions. So we're able to extend content components with prepackaged capabilities. We're going to be able to pull in Pardot pre-built content so that we can use the API to execute with Pardot content. Additionally, we're going to be able to pull in Salesforce integrations into Pardot through the usage of external activities and action on them with external actions. So how do we get started? It's fairly easy. We're going to first need to create a connected app. Any single time you're trying to use an API integration, it is recommended that you have a unique user for the API and a connected app, a unique connected app. And the reason for that ultimately is just that you don't want the API to have the overlap touching between different systems. You absolutely can use one connected app for multiple things, just not our Sercante recommendation. We're going to be able to then share some API documentation and highlight some of that, again, high level, because we as the marketers care more about the immediate automations and building flows using flow actions for Pardot. So high level, again, we're going to talk through browsing the API documentation. We're going to just briefly talk about getting started with Postman, but then we're going to spend the most of the time using flow actions for Pardot. So time to demo. So first things first, we want to understand a little bit of the documentation. So this is a link we have available in the slides that goes into what the V5 documentations look like. Within this, I mentioned high level what all we could do. We have the ability, though, to look at account information, custom field information, but not only that, email template information, pull in lists, find list memberships, high-level prospects and whatnot. The two things we're going to dive into today are custom redirects and external activities. So within custom redirects, we have the ability with this API to create custom redirects, update, delete, or query, which is basically just search the system to pull in said custom redirect. Going into this slide, this is just a quick example slide of what the Postman looks like. What we're doing with Postman ultimately is we are trying to use this system to better understand what the API is pulling back and forth and using it to then make that connection between the two systems. Now, the nice thing about the Postman is that this is a good just kind of training resource to better understand how to use it. And so if you are a developer and you want to be able to see this, their documentation's all there, and we have a wonderful workspace that details out the V5 Pardot API and goes into the details for all of the different objects we can update with it. That's something we can share with you after the presentation if your developer mind is really wanting to learn about it. But for the marketer, they aren't as into the fun of coding. So they just want to dive in to the system. So the example we're going to go through today is creating custom redirects through Salesforce, but you're creating the Pardot custom redirect. So I'm in a campaign. I have an event, Automation Dreamin's just coming up. It's actually ending in a little bit, but we want to be able to have this campaign to understand registration. Well, we know that people have multiple channels of registering. So people are coming in through Twitter, LinkedIn, paid ads, etc. But instead of having to go into Pardot, go into the custom redirect section and create all of those, I just want to have one function to do it all. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to, with my screen flow, type in my target URL. I realize I do this every single time, that it's the incorrect format. Make sure you have that HTTPS link in there. I'm going to click next. And now the system is running through the automation. And now I have created 3 social redirects. So we have Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We are not limited to these. You can do any different items you want. So this was really, really quick and easy for me to build. Now I want to ask the question, how did we do this? So again, this is a screen flow. So I went in to my flow section, we have a create social redirect screen flow here. And then we're gonna dive in here to the flow itself. So first step, we're getting our Salesforce records. That's standard for every flow we have. We're making sure we're pulling in the right record ID for that campaign. We have the screen where you have the ability to input your target URL as well as it's pulling in the Salesforce campaign name that it's related to. The first step we have to also pull in is the pulling in the Pardot ID. So even though I've created this campaign in Salesforce with connected campaigns, Pardot is cloning that and creating it as a related Pardot campaign. But when you're creating content in the system, the asset you're creating in Pardot doesn't look at the Salesforce campaign, it looks at the related Pardot campaign. So first we pull in that, and then we have a very easy redirect to pull in the custom redirect name, the related ID. We're pulling in the target value from the screen flow. And then you have the ability, if you want, to link in business units. So if you have multiple business units, you can make sure that the custom redirect is coming in through the correct par.org. We are making sure that we are pulling in the campaign ID for our UTM parameters. So when it says GA, these are for UTM parameters. And so now what we've done is we've highlighted social, Twitter, pulled in the right campaign ID. We've clicked done, and we're doing that now for Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Again, you can use this for any other link you want. You just have to create the correct element for it and the right formula information to populate those accordingly. But it's a very, very simple process with Flow to get all of this created. And then we're posting the results. And now if we go into Pardot and we click enter, we're going to see that these three links were created inside of Pardot with the correct UTM parameters that we want to look at for campaign ID, UTM source, and UTM medium. So we've been able to do all of this with our wonderful App Exchange app, Flow Action for Pardot. It's free. You can get it now in the App Exchange. But the other example I talked about a bit ago was being able to utilize external activities. So we had the example where for Automation Dreamin, we have a wonderful, solution, wonderful event coming on, and we are using an app that we got through the App Exchange to do event registration. That is called Inintech Solutions, or Inintech Events, sorry. I got it through the App Exchange, so I went into the App Exchange, found my app. Again, I'm talking about a hypothetical app, but this is what you would realistically be doing. You'd be searching the App Exchange, find it, download it. So inside of this, we have our custom object for that App Exchange app that we have purchased. And as I mentioned, when we go into the documentation, we have the ability to create external activities, read existing external activities, and query find them to read them. So with this custom App Exchange app, it's created a custom object that's pulling in information. With this, all it's doing is you have the event app on your website, you go to the right link, you fill out the form, and it's populating a custom object record for your registration here. This is not uncommon for App Exchange apps to just be put a custom object in and not relate back to the contact or lead or campaign. So that's something we have to keep in mind. There are apps that do connect into contacts and leads and whatnot. There are some that don't. It just depends on what you choose, and it's kind of a 50-50 on whether or not you get one that does what you're ultimately needing. So to get external activities to populate into Pardot, we have to connect them as marketing app extensions. So we've created this one already in here. So within this, we have created the extension name, made sure the API name is correct so it maps over properly to Salesforce. And then we have different activity types. So this is going to be important for us from a visualization standpoint inside of Pardot, because you can have a few different ones. So we have registered, attended. If you want to have another one for missed, that's for an event example. You could also have this for API integrations for content or social or paid related assets. Think of it similar to how you would do campaign member statuses. So now I'm going in and I'm doing this manually for the purposes of the demo, but for the real life use case, it would be me going to a website, clicking on a link, filling out the form, and this registration record would then populate into the system. So we have Brandy Fox at Salesforce registering for our event. Well, now I'm going to hit save, and all of this is happening through a form backend automation, and then that's going to trigger our flow. So with our flow, it's going to look to see if one of the custom object and Intech event registrations have been created. And then if not, we're going to end it here. If so, we're going to then send the external activity directly to Pardot. Now, this is really, really awesome and cool, but the one thing to keep in mind is that we're just pulling in the event, the general event information. And so Pardot is trying to review and see, cool, does this record exist by email? If it doesn't, this is going to fail. This flow is not going to run through successfully. So what we can do is using flow actions for Pardot, we can create a new action. And so you're probably thinking as we're talking through this, man, it's cool that you have the custom redirects and external activities. What else can this do? So with the API, again, this is being able to look at Pardot data, which is reviewing form or prospect related engagement. So what lists I belong to, what emails I've been sent, what external activities I have engaged with. And then you have the admin side, which is going to look at the more technical content focused side of things. So campaigns they belong to, also custom redirects to be created or updated, folders the assets belong to, static lists to be able to be created and or added to. So there's a lot that we can do with this from the backend standpoint. But for purposes of this example, we want to talk through being able to upsert by email. So what this is doing for upsert, it's basically saying if it doesn't exist, we are going to create it. If it does exist, we're just going to update the information accordingly. So all you have to do is just map the email address with the value from the specific variable that came in from before this. If you want to populate in any other information, you absolutely can. You just have to make sure that this object is also capturing in some of that information, like first name, last name, and company. Again, purposes of the demo, we've only captured email address. So now we have this running. It's going to have that step before for us to then say, fantastic, we are keeping that in mind. Let's go into Salesforce. And with that being said, now I can refresh this page. Excuse me. And we are able to see that in Intech events registration for automation Dreamin. So now, again, while out of the box, this technically does not integrate with Pardot, with flow actions for Pardot, we now are able to see this information at the external activity level. So there's a few things to talk through on this. You could use dynamic list membership to help with this. You could use campaign membership to help with this and adding campaign members to a list. The reason I like to highlight external activities, and partially because this is going to be the future usage of Pardot, is that we get to understand the event type, so registered, attended, missed. It's unique to the individual, but also you get a date stamp for this. Within a list, yes, you can get when I joined the list, but if I go from registered to attended, we're not going to see that change because you joined the list forever ago, and the last updated date could be for so many other things outside of just changing from registered to attended. With this, we get a bird's eye view on the prospect record of what's going on and what's happening with this individual. And so I mentioned external activities at the beginning of the session, and now I'm going to call on external actions. So we can take this and bring this all together in an engagement studio program so that all the marketer has to do at the end of the day inside of Pardot is make sure your email content is ready and build the engagement studio program. Everything else is done from your Salesforce, from the Salesforce campaign or from the Intech solutions backend. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in because it's a little hard to read all of this. Is we have started this by saying, fantastic, we have a list of all the people we want to register for automation training. Well, first step in this, which we're going to have this step of up to a maximum of 45 days, because that's the period of time we are reviewing this for, to see if within that 45 days, did you click one of our custom redirect links that we just created? So we're going to hit save. If not, after that 45 days, you're going to go down to the end because we know that you didn't engage through one of our redirects. If so, we're now going to be able to add you to our campaign as sent. And you have the ability inside of the campaign to create different campaign member statuses. So for this situation, I would want to say, fantastic, let's have a sent for Twitter. Let's have a sent for LinkedIn. Let's have a sent status for Google paid ads. So you can understand how are people engaging and getting to your campaign. Well, that's wonderful. I've been now added to the campaign. Now I'm going to do another up to 45 days. And I'm going to see, wonderful, you clicked the link that I want you to, you got to the registration page. Did you actually register? From here, I can say, wonderful. If the event is through Inintech, if the activity type is registered and the value that got populated was Automation Dreamin 2022, if yes, we can then add them to the campaign and update their member status. Automation Dreamin with status of responded. Again, you get to choose what these member statuses are. So you could do responded Twitter, responded, or you could just keep it high level general. But we're going to make sure and highlight now that they are responded. And then we want to send them an email. Maybe we want to send it as a thank you for registering. Maybe we want to be able to send it 3 days, wait 3 days after we have captured this to then say the event's coming up. Don't forget to go through the agenda to find the sessions you're looking for. You get to decide that as the marketer and how you want that to be organized, but we have the functionality now to use external activities and help us better understand what the next step in our nurture or engagement outreach is going to look like. So with that being said, it's wonderful to go through all of this with everyone. There's a lot you can do with external activities and flow actions for Pardot. We have all the resources linked inside of the slide deck. We have the API overview, tools shown, and other apps as well. So we do have a few other apps if you're interested in learning about them for Pardot. And if you're interested in learning more, please let us know. We have about 3 minutes left in this session, so I want to use this time for if anyone has any questions at all, please feel free to post them in the chat.
Great. Thank you so much, Jacob. Oh, there, I was going to ask you for your contact information, so thank you. Yeah, Steve is saying Jacob is an expert flow builder, so yay you. I'm not an expert flow builder. I can barely build, basic flows. So.
Well, and that's the nice thing about this solution. And when we think about Flow, there's a lot of great resources. So if you're not familiar with Flow, there are quite a few trailhead modules to kind of get started. And if you're trying to better understand also how to be able to use your Pardot.org better in relation with Salesforce campaigns and just your Salesforce lead objects, this is going to be a tool that's going to really help combine those solutions. So it's really easy to get started. As I said before, we have all of the wonderful resources inside of our slide deck. So definitely feel free to reach out or go check out some of the links in the slide deck.
That's awesome. Thank you. Any questions, gang, before we go? Your gang, congratulations and well done in the chat. So
it's a science of being able to make sure I'm quick with it within the time lot, but also make sure I'm very clear with how I'm wording things.
Yeah, 25 minutes is not very long. So, okay. Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to turn off the recording and let Jacob go. Yeah. Good job, Jacob. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, gang. Have a great weekend. Okay.